Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco,
And I'm Amber Churchwell.
and we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome back to the Watchers in the Basement. We're very happy to have you here. And today, the lovely Amber and I are going to be reviewing The Handmaid's Tale, Season 5, Episode 5. We are halfway through the season, Amber.
Crazy.
I can't believe it. First of all, what did you think of this week's episode entitled Fairytales?
I really liked it because of like the small little developments that there were, but it wasn't as like dramatically active, I guess, as
Okay.
the last couple episodes, especially the most previous one. But there was so many plot driven things that I liked in it that I liked it. I liked it a lot. What'd you think?
I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as the previous episode because that episode was just incredible with the dynamic of June and Luke dealing with Serena in their own ways and then encountering Serena at the end. And then now they're leading their separate lives once again, far away from each other. But that does not mean they are not connected in some kind of fashion because Gilead is still present. It's still a thing. And this cliffhanger, though, was actually very, very good. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Let's just go ahead and talk about this episode. We're going to start with Serena because I think talking about Luke and June at the end is a little bit more appropriate. But Serena, my God.
Wow.
Where we left off with Serena is that she was taken from the Gilead Information Center when shot was fired, and she's now at this new quote unquote safe haven with the Wheelers. The Wheelers, at least Mrs. Wheeler seems to be like a super fan, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, super fan, and like it was creeping me out.
Yeah.
I was so creeped out by it. That like not just
And
her
you
words,
like
but her
creepy stuff.
behaviors. Yeah, and I like creepy stuff, and I was like, this lady makes me very uncomfortable. And I think and Serena was uncomfortable through it. But
she's about to become even more uncomfortable.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was like a little bit where she kind of smiles and has like a little bit of like, I'm surrounded by my familiarities, like I'm surrounded by familiarity and things that are familiar and comfortable to me. But even then, there's still like that layer of like, okay.
Yeah. We're kind of crossing boundaries on what's appropriate, inappropriate, and things of that nature. And Serena is at this, I call it a compound because we'll later find out that she's really not allowed to interact with anyone outside of the Wheeler household, either for her own protection or otherwise. But she is at this house, she's exploring her surroundings, and she asks her personal bodyguard from Gilead, Ezra, if she can meet Mr. Wheeler because she just wants to share her thanks for his hospitality and things of that nature. And Ezra's like, well, he's kind of a really busy man, so no.
Like don't hold your breath.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But then we see Serena having breakfast. It looks like a really lovely breakfast. Like I don't eat breakfast. I know it's the most important meal today, but I really don't eat breakfast. But that breakfast did look quite good. But it's with that creepy super fan. She's completely fawning over Serena, Mrs. Wheeler, right? She's just I don't know. There's not enough words to describe Mrs. Wheeler in the way that I would like to. Yeah. But I want to talk really quick about the positioning that these two women are in. Serena was kind of left off with this Gilead ambassador title, if you will. And so in her mind, I'm all important. I am doing God's work, blah, 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 blah. But now she's in someone else's household where, of course, Mrs. Wheeler would be at the head of the table. Yeah. And she's like telling Serena, kind of tells her, you don't need to go out of your way to make this elaborate, breakfast and things like that. And Mrs. Wheeler's like, oh, no. it's not a problem at all. We need to, make sure that you're taken care of, the baby's taken care of. It's really seeing Serena in the role of like a handmaid and Mrs. Wheeler
Very
being
much
the
so.
wife. Like, what are your thoughts
And
on all that?
yes, I very much felt that, especially with, you can see the differences on their plates.
Mm-hmm.
Like Serena didn't make her own plate. That plate was already there waiting for her. And I took note of that because I'm like, well, that's very much just like how in Gilead they made sure that, like, when June was pregnant with Nicole, um, she had a very strict diet. They were monitoring everything, and even though it's subtle and no one's saying it, like, I think, and Serena definitely seems aware of that. She's like, hey, I'm seeing the patterns here. And especially since she's like, we keep getting flashbacks of her first experience of obtaining a handmaid.
Right.
She's not blind to it, which I think is good. But I'm wondering where she stands emotionally with that, because if she
Mm-hmm.
sees that this is happening and like accepting of it, or because I don't think that's in character for her.
Not one
But
bit.
that's what it seems like, because we don't really see her doing anything to push back against it. We just see her go along with it.
And because she's the guest in the household, she doesn't really have any power to conduct herself otherwise.
Yeah.
She can't make those calls, even though she thinks that she can. She gets her ass handed to her a couple of times in this episode, which I absolutely love. However,
Needs to happen.
when we see the resemblances of Serena sitting at the table, she has this meal that she has to consume, but she has that green drink, the green drink that Aunt Lydia forced on June, oh, it's important to get your vitamins and minerals. And
Yeah.
The difference being is that Serena's not complaining about it, right? She's going along with it. But that camera angle of the back of Mrs. Wheeler's head and focusing on that for a while, and then you see Serena in the background, drinking her drink and what have you. It's like, wow, how things have shifted for
Yeah.
Serena. No longer at the head of her household, if you will. And she's, whether she wants to see it or admit it or not, she's very much in the same role that June was once, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
over 2 years ago.
It's just a glorified handmaid at this point, and
Oh, yeah.
where things are going to go from there, who can say? But
well, it went to having Mrs. Wheeler inviting her friends over, right? And let's all meet Serena, but it's not really meet Serena. It's let's all go fawn over the baby bump. Like, good God.
Like, it sounded at first like she invited her friends over so that she could spread the word of Gilead, like her job is supposed to, quote unquote. Like, that's what she's supposed to be doing. But that's how it sounded. Like, oh, hey, they're here. They're really excited to meet you. Like, sounded very much less like this is because of Gilead. Nope, it was entirely because of the baby bump.
Exactly. And we're met with a lot of creepy praise be greetings. And
we tried for so long.
And it's kind of funny at that scene because Serena is sitting in between Mrs. Wheeler and then one of her friends, and they're fawning over the baby bump, and it's almost as if Serena's not even there at that point. It's almost like she's just invisible, much like a handmaid. And these two wives are talking to each other saying, oh, we've tried so hard. Yes, I know, but this gives me hope. And Serena's like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening here, right? And of course, now everyone wants to feel the baby kick because Serena allowed for one. Now everyone else is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And wait, okay, there's a bubble. We need to respect that bubble. Like, I'm not a fan of Serena, but like, girl, do not let people touch your belly.
It's definitely different being on the other side of that, isn't it, Serena? Because, I mean, they don't really care about the personal space of Handmaids and Gilead. Like, that doesn't matter. So
no,
it's like very, very small things to show where she's standing. And she's basically a handmaid in all but red.
I agree. But
Mm-hmm.
one interesting flashback that happened during this moment, Amber, if you want to walk us
Mm-hmm.
through it, was a flashback to Serena in early Gilead days with Mrs. Putnam.
Yeah, I was very interested in that because it's at the hospital where we do see a lot of the rescued, rescued
Heavily
kids.
quoted rescued. Good God.
Yeah, the recently rescued children from the unfit mothers or parents. And this is probably more than likely the exact same situation that June and Hannah had to go through. That Hannah
Yeah.
was taken away from June. Like this is what happens. We're seeing the other side of what happened to these children. So
Mhm.
they were in a hospital until they were, I guess, paired off with Gilead appropriate parents. And we see Mrs. Putnam, and she says, and I quote, "You never really know where they came from or who they came from, do you?" And oh, that made me not feel great.
Listen, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna rip the band-aid. That came off racist AF,
It
okay?
was
In my
racist. It didn't come
opinion,
off as it was.
because the children that are in these
Mhm.
rooms, and they're not really doing a whole lot of activities, if you will. They're just kind of there.
Mhm.
A lot of these children are minority children.
Yeah.
And so to hear this woman say that, oh, well, you don't know where they came from or who they came from. And I'm like, and that makes them a lesser human being?
Mhm.
What
It
the
came off
hell?
as well, even to me, it didn't come off just racist, it also came off as classist.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
without a doubt.
yeah, like there's so much wrapped in that, and we know that Mrs. Putnam is not all sunshine daisies. We know that.
Mhm.
We know she's not that great, especially in the beginning.
No.
She did go through some things, but a little bit of growth, and we do see that with Janine, but this is years ago in the beginning of Gilead. This is before all of
Right.
that. And like it was so racist. It made me so uncomfortable. And we like and you where do these kids go? Who
Right.
decides that? Is it the
Right.
commanders? Is it I don't know. Was it Martha's? Is it I wouldn't think it would be
The
Martha's,
aunts
but the
or
aunts. Yeah, because there was an aunt in one of the rooms taking care of like a little
a
baby.
baby. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, where, like, who decides, like you said, where these kids go, and if they are not placed in a home because no one wants them for various reasons, then like what happens to them? Because if Gilead's quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote mission is to replenish the earth, right, and
Yeah.
be fitting parents to children who didn't have fit parents. By the way, who gets to decide that? Like, that's just ridiculous, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to these kids? I mean, are they all accounted for, or are they not?
No, and I mean we do see it. I am blanking on his name right now, but when they went to DC, when that commander, who was it?
Oh, you're talking about Christopher Malone's character?
Mm-hmm, that
Yeah.
June. Yeah, they had several older kids, and we know that they do have handmaids, but are
Mhm.
all of them handmaids, or are some of them? Because there were mixed race children there,
Yeah,
so
I don't think Gilead's been around long enough to warrant having older children like
yeah,
that.
there was like 4 or 5,
Mhm.
and I think those children, because they were mixed races or
Mhm.
multiple races, ethnicities, that we can assume that that's where some of the children went because
Right.
but so maybe they have the choice, like how Mrs. Putnam obviously she clearly does not want that, so
Mhm.
maybe it was left up to their choices. And the
Right.
aunts, I'm going to assume, I guess maybe a little headcanon for myself, is that the aunts are the ones who decide until told otherwise.
Maybe.
And um but I think it has to go be screened through the commanders,
I would think
like the
so.
aunts, like,
Yeah.
hey, here's some potential candidates that work for you, and
Right.
then the commanders to make the final decision. That's what I'm gonna think.
I can get behind that because I do recall in earlier seasons with Aunt Lydia amongst her other aunts, they were deciding which handmaid goes to which family, and there was a distinct comment of, oh no, this family doesn't want a mixed race child. They solely wanted their own race, whatever that was. So I'm sure
we can assume what it was.
we can, it is what it is. But I do think you're right in saying all that. So, and talking about the Handmaid program, because again, this is the early days of Gilead. Serena questions Mrs. Putnam, what do you, so are you going to get a handmaid? And Mrs. Putnam's kind of like revolted at that idea. She's like, that just makes the idea worse. Like, I would never go for that. So both women agree that the handmaid program was not going to be for them, that they were going to keep on trying. But as that conversation is being concluded, Serena is looking at another room full of rescued children, and she waves to one little girl who looks up, and then she kind of looks back down and just continues coloring or doing whatever she was doing. And then the camera pulls back and you see a hallway just full of rooms of these kidnapped kids.
Yeah, and that was such a striking image for me. I was
incredible.
Yeah, it was very visually striking, incredible storytelling visually. It was I really liked it. But I mean, it's terrible. I didn't like it. You know what I mean.
But for visual purposes, to stress the point that there were so many kids that were taken from families,
especially since Gilead's
whether they were fit or not.
Yeah, especially since Gilead's like, their whole thing is for the children. This is all for the children. This is all for the children. Is it really though? And that was we've known that for a long time, but this was, even in the very early days of Gilead, you can see it's not entirely about the children. It's not even mostly about the children. It's that that image, and then these two women are talking about how, oh, I guess I have to deal with one of these children if I want one, or I guess we can keep trying, or I
guess we
would never have a handmaid. Yeah, it was the privilege. Like,
I know. It made me want to reach into my TV and just slap them, because it's like, your whole philosophy and doctrine or whatever is that these children are plucked because they come from unfit families, yet they're still not good enough for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's
terrible.
The bias there. It
was terrible.
It's so complex and it's terrible. And I also thought it was very interesting seeing, because when we meet these women for the first time in season 1, that they obviously, June is the handmaid, and so they've already changed their minds. They've already gone through this, because this is years before the show starts. And Mrs. Putnam, like, by the time that we are in the first episode, Janine is already expecting,
full-blown pregnant.
Yeah, it's like full-blown, like very, very soon gonna pop out that baby. Right. So it is just very, I guess, interesting to see that obviously things changed. And
when you're desperate, you will pretty much succumb to just about everything. But one thing that's Serena, going back to current day Serena, she's not willing to succumb to is not working. She was given an initiative. She wants to keep doing that. And Mrs. Wheeler tells her that she can take a phone call in one of the rooms, and Serena invites her to be on that phone call, to which Mrs. Wheeler replies, oh no, wives have no business doing things like that.
Yeah.
And Serena's kind of like taken aback a little. Like,
I was too.
She's just like, oh, well, okay. And really, I don't know what Serena's goal was being a Gilead ambassador in Canada. Whether she was going to continue Gilead's mission or not, or try to break away and kind of give women back their choice and their voice and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what her complete motive was, but that seemed to kind of like slap her across the face about like, oh no, women or wives have no business handling things of that nature.
Yeah, and
And ugh.
well, at least what I think was, and this is what I thought when I heard that, because I was taken aback by it, just like Serena was. But I think that it kind of reminded her, like, oh, if I am going to be an ambassador for Gilead, that is the Gilead ideal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that is true. She's like, oh, like, I think kind of like, I think she kind of lost sight of that, or not lost sight of it, but it kind of just got, oh, I'm an exception.
That's one way
And
of looking at it.
yeah, to the point where now she's realizing, like, oh, that might not be a great thing.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mel.
Real quick, gonna give a shout out to Mel from Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. But Amber, with that being said about Mrs. Wheeler, Serena still takes her phone call with Commander Lawrence, but he's also joined by Commander Putnam, whom I think we can agree is a sack of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it delicately, sack of shit. And it's no question that he does not care for Serena, let alone Commander Lawrence himself. And Putnam is quick to blame Serena for the closure of the information center in Toronto. She's like, I'm not accepting blame. I'm blaming June and her husband.
Mm-hmm.
To which they both agree and say, okay, they need to be dealt with. And then Serena wants to keep business talk going and say, well, I'd like to reopen the facility, but as a fertility center. People don't care about Gilead's policies, and it's so controversial, but what they do care about and what they do want to learn more about is conception and the gift of life versus rhetoric and things of that nature. And she's going on and on and on, and Putnam's like, yeah, we'll take it under consideration, bye, hang up.
Yeah, and it was so rude. Like, I mean, power to her for keep going. Like, he tried to cut her off maybe 3 or 4 times, and she still kept going. Power to her for that. But he was just trying to cut her off, and eventually just hung up on her when she wasn't listening. And yeah, because that's not what they want. They don't. Making her a Gilead ambassador thing is probably just what they said, that he's like, we don't have a place for a woman like you in Gilead. And it's just basically their way to kind of ghost her.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's definitely where it's going. And they're slowly just going to stop. I wouldn't be surprised if the frequency of these calls and of their involvement with her were to
just, like,
diminish
cease.
more and more. Yeah, like diminish more and more
altogether.
To eventually they're just, until she's just completely excommunicated.
I definitely can see that happening, but there's even more tension amongst the two commanders after that phone call, because while Putnam is saying that, Serena can't run amok. Okay, we've got to yank her leash to remind her of her place, and Lawrence, good God, Bradley Whitford, I love this man. He's like, yeah, we know how much you like to yank leash. Like, we know how you like to handle women. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I love this man. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
He has some of the best lines.
Without a doubt.
Sharp wit. I love it.
Yeah. So then Putnam deflects, of course. He deflects from those comments, Serena, and now is wanting to attack Commander Lawrence on probably a little bit more personal and professional level about this new initiative called New Bethlehem, which is a project that sounds like we're going to bring back everybody into the now Gilead, the former United States, and we're just going to forgive them. We're going to forgive everyone who wronged us, which would be the sort of Christian thing to do. Forgiveness is a big lesson that's taught. However, Putnam doesn't see eye to eye with Lawrence about that. He would rather punish their enemies and keep Gilead isolated and not let the world know about who they are and their operations and things like that. What did you think when Lawrence told him, if we were to do that, this country will die?
Then do it. But that was my impulsive response. But
good response.
It just then perish. But I don't know. It was striking because he's right. Lawrence he was one of the founders, and he has so much in the formation and how Gilead actually runs. Not just the rules and the current hearsay. Like that's not his deal. His thing is in the entire actual operation, which,
well, I think he's more of an economist. No, I mean that's he's looking at just the overall function of the nation, right? So yeah.
So if anyone's gonna know that what it would take to make the nation of Gilead fall apart, it would be him. And so I don't think it's a warning to take lightly. But of course, Putnam's gonna do what he wants to do. So, and he definitely didn't seem happy about that. He was just like, he was so sassy with his.
So sassy.
I don't. He has gotten such an ego boost after Fred died.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's
you said Putnam's gonna do whatever he wants to do, and I'm like, yeah, and that's why he lost a hand.
You would think that would humble him.
Oh, nope. No. If people who try to stand behind a wall of righteousness are usually the worst kind of people out there. Usually. Yeah. Not everybody, usually.
You kind of forget about him after the cutting off the hand. You kind of forget that he exists, because after them cutting off his hand, kind of mid-forearm, really. But when they... After that, he's just kind of like this sad little creature in the corner, like
pretty much.
And pretty much. Yeah, and then he's come back with a force ever since Fred died. He's obviously gotten promoted again or some sort, and they were getting a new handmaid, and like with Esther, and like they're definitely building us. I think they're building it up for him to be a bit more of a villain or player in this.
Oh yeah.
Because
I think he's already
had. Oh, yeah, he's gonna get killed very fair. I'm so confident in that he's gonna die. He's gonna die. But either this season or the first half of next season, I promise.
Oh yeah, for
sure. That's where I'm placing my bets. Right. But we see with Esther, like they're really showing us just how terrible he really is. Because again, you forget about him. You forgot that this pathetic little creature in the corner, and then you see him with the chocolates force feeding Esther, and that's just like, oh yeah, this guy is the worst. And then this, like, you see how he was very blatantly disregarding Serena and treating her horribly over the phone, and then he's just standing up to Lawrence. It's they're
a lot of men shutting down other men, or in Serena's case, being man shutting down a woman once more, right?
Yeah.
So talking about Serena again, she also, she's restricted to this household basically. And when one of the super fans wants to come and bring her a bouquet of flowers, Serena just happens to be out there at the same time, and she approaches the gate. She tells Ezra, like, hey, I want to commune with this person. And he says to her, our orders from Mr. Wheeler are to not open the gates. We don't know who she is. We don't know her intentions. Fair argument. True. Very fair argument. However, are those orders...
Did you forget, Serena, that there were gunshots outside the building that you were living in?
Right. But the orders to keep the gates closed, are they coming from Mr. Wheeler himself, or are they coming from the commanders above him? You see
that, and he seems very much like a commander in Canada. And it's just another way of treating her like a handmaid.
Yep.
She's not allowed to leave unless allowed.
Yep. So she's very much probably feeling more imprisoned than protected because of those restrictions. She is recalling the time that she had to give in to picking a handmaid. And we see that day shared with Aunt Lydia in the room that the handmaid would be staying in. And both women are uncomfortable, Aunt Lydia and Serena. And
yeah, it was so cringy.
It was really, really cringy. But Aunt Lydia is presenting Serena 4 or 5 folders of hands, the very finest, most respectable, fertile candidates. And the first file that Serena looks at, Aunt Lydia could she be more over the top?
I feel like she was going to say that too, no matter which one Serena touched.
Right. And what was it that she said? What was it that she said?
Like, I don't remember the exact wording, but just like, very, very perfect. Very, like, that's one of my favorites. That's the one that I wanted for you. And it was just like, oh, very good choice, Serena. That's beautiful. Well, it didn't say Serena, said Mrs. Waterford.
Right.
But very good choice, Mrs. Waterford. She is a very good choice for you. And I know you'll be very happy with this handmaid. And it's like, then she dismisses that one.
Well, because
she picks up another.
Because Aunt Lydia had said that particular handmaid had also caught Fred's eye, and to which Serena's like,
nope.
Close, next. Thank you, next.
Which, I mean, power to her for knowing that there's going to be a problem anyway, so.
You're right.
Yeah, like, that says so much about what their expectations were. And, like, that kind of makes me want to, like, look back at season 1 and see. Because, obviously, now we know that Serena will dismiss somebody who caught Fred's eye. So, but June still did. So,
and that was the curious thing. So this clearly was their first handmaid. And from what we know from season 1 of the first handmaid, she ended up committing suicide in that bedroom, right? She hung herself. We never actually found out what it was that Fred did to her. Yeah. If it's along the same lines of whatever he did to June, or maybe he took it Putnam style, right? He was just creepy. We don't know. And we'll never know. I doubt it. But you're right. June somehow caught his attention.
And it's interesting to me now because it's making me kind of reevaluate things.
Yeah.
And then immediately after she starts looking at another file and you're like, oh, like this handmaid is like, this one will be perfect. Like you'll be very happy with her. And it's like,
winner.
Do that to anybody.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, like it's a very annoying sales technique. Just
it really is. But the overselling of oh yes, that's a wonderful choice. Like it hurt her soul so good.
I know.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. It was a bit much. A
little bit.
Did not like it. I was uncomfy.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but yeesh.
Yeah, even she had to succumb to something that she didn't want to do. And that would explain her bitterness for sure. Yes, without a doubt. But you would think that the experience that she's going through, the miracle that she's been bestowed, she's praying at her bedside, and we finally get to see the Mr. Wheeler. He's a very mysterious person up to this point, and he walks in, he's very cordial, he semi young man, if you will, and
he was younger than I expected.
Yeah, for sure. Because you look at commanders and you think, oh, they're all like middle-aged men, what have you. He seems to be on the lower end of that. But he walks in to inform Serena that, hey, Gilead likes your idea about the fertility center, or fertility focused information center, if you will. And she's like, great, like, let's start working. I want to spearhead this whole new initiative. And he's like, whoa. He's like,
Reel it in.
we think that your baby needs to come first before any other ambitions. And he tells her, basically, you just need to sit your ass down and rest.
Yes.
But then he does like probably the most, I think, the move that makes it seem like, wow, I'm really the one in power here, and you need to bend down to my will. And if there was a move that made her feel like a handmaid, this was the move of the prenatal vitamin or whatever, the prenatal capsules. And he pours out a glass of water, hands her the things, and watches her take the pill. And he says, now you need to take one every day to keep up with your levels. And she's like, I will. Yeah. Creepy as hell, but it's like, wow.
Yeah, like she very firmly, you are being treated like a handmaid, and that is
a glorified one.
Yeah, you're right. Handmaid and all but red, I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, she's been denied everything that she thought she was going to have by being this Gilead ambassador. And
the cell phone, she can't have a cell phone.
She can't have the cell phone. She can't spearhead this initiative. She can't do the thing that she really wants to do, and that's be in the limelight, in charge. Because we know that she worked very, very closely behind the scenes to making Gilead what it is today. Yeah. And she's not been given her quote unquote due respect or the ability to do the work. And that's all she wants to do. And it's like, well, okay, hindsight. Why did you do this all together? You just gave up all of your freedom, all your agency to choose and this and that. And then you, at one point in one of the seasons, she blames Fred. She's like, how could you have done that to me? It's like, bitch, you gave it up on your own.
Yeah, like this was like, it could have been done without you. How are you surprised by this?
Yeah.
And it's basically like turning on an oven and then touching it and being, oh, it's hot. Why is it hot? You turned it on.
Yes.
Like it's exactly like that. And I just thought it was just so interesting. And now she's, and to show even the stark contrast of her, I guess, new role here in Canada, Gilead. Gilead, Canada. I don't know what to call it. Caliad. I don't know. It's to show that role, like Canalid. Yeah, let's go with that one. That one sounds better than Caliad. Canalid. We're going with Canalid. Sure. So now with her new role, it shows definitely that what it is, because she's supposed to be this ambassador, but they won't let her go out of the house to commune with the people who are supporting Gilead. They won't let her do that, which is a kind of a, key action of an ambassador, but whatever. She clearly can't do that. She can't have a phone. She can't communicate. Like everything's being screened through, and like a handmaid, she's
very much restricted.
Very much so.
Well, speaking of handmaids, let's talk about a former handmaid.
The OG.
The OG. That's right. Not to be confused with OT, who plays Luke. That was a pretty good transition. So let's talk about June and Luke, because this was a pretty big episode for them, obviously.
Yes.
They are sleeping, and June's having dreams of happier times before Gilead with Hannah. Love the flashback to seeing little Hannah and when they're at the aquarium. But they're woken up to a phone call from Lily. As we recall, Lily is kind of the resistance leader that we saw along the border. And she says that she's got news about the wife's school, and that there's an ally guardian who has that information. He's, going to come and talk to the resistance about it. So they hightail it to that location with Moira, but they're met along the way by some Canadian protesters who pretty much want the Yankees, because that's what they keep yelling out. They want the Yankees to go back home. Canadians, do you realize that America is Gilead now? Do you really want them to go into Gilead? Really?
I I have a theory, and I might be wrong. I actually am probably wrong.
I want to hear the
But
theory.
my theory. So I don't know how other way to say it, but what if these are people that are supporting of Gilead?
Okay.
And we did hear in this episode, you know, the Bethlehem Project and bringing people back in and apologizing and stuff like that. So what if this is like kind of working in tandem with that?
Oh, that's a good theory, actually.
Yeah.
Because we do see
Mhm.
Canadian Gilead sympathizers.
Exactly.
So if they're the ones who are saying Yankees go back home,
Mhm.
or unless Gilead is just really that crafty and they planted, you know, people in there to
They could have.
I can get behind that.
I mean, obviously the Wheelers are in Canada. Why? Like they are seeming, other than because they're not dressing in the colors, but
no, not really,
because the wives are that we see fawning over Serena are wearing like relatively normal clothes,
right,
and but they're not so they're not wearing the blue of wives, but they are still they're wearing the same style, like the outline, the silhouette, same.
The mannerisms and everything else is that,
and the words and the behaviors.
Yeah,
so it's like
short of wearing the color.
Exactly. So they're just people that we can clearly see there are people outside of Gilead that are behaving and acting like Gilead, just not as strict.
Yeah.
In using the exact protocols, which it's a color.
I
mean, out of all of the protocols to avoid, that's minor. Yeah. But they are doing all the other stuff.
They for sure are.
I wouldn't be surprised if this has some kind of connection, but I might be wrong. But that's my theory.
It's an interesting theory. I do like that theory. But Lily, when June, Moira, and Luke arrive, she's got bad news. The ally guardian either can't make it across no man's land or won't make it because Border Patrol has beefed up and therefore the guardian is stuck in no man's land. Well, Luke's like, listen, we've come this far. I'm not leaving without that information. I'm going to go over there. And June's like, I'm going with you. So this woman is virtually going back into Gilead territory. I mean, she's got to cross no man's land, but like getting to the Guardian side, who obviously is of Gilead, very risky, extremely risky. And really all they have is like a map. They've got like a backpack of goods that they're going to trade off with the Guardian and a secret password, which is beret.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's beret, but it is. But all the while they are traveling through the woods because they're not going to be able to make it until morning. I say they, but June is having these flashbacks, horrible flashbacks, of course, when Luke, June, and Hannah were trying to escape Gilead Guardians, and they were separated. All three of them were separated. So the PTSD is very real. I get it. I you know what? I would probably be having the same flashbacks. Girl, my God. So sad.
Yeah, it was intense. And you can tell how I liked that they made it very clear just how impactful this was for June without lingering too heavily on it to where it kind of felt too stretched out. I think they paced it very well.
I agree with that. I for sure agree with that. And during the night in the woods, they do come across a hanging corpse from a tree. It appears to be a guardian who has the clothing of a guardian, but what's weird is that there's a sign that says rapist. And this freaks out Luke because this is more or less his real first up close and personal interaction with Gilead. And June's like, well, Gilead, this isn't Gilead. Gilead doesn't use words. So it's like, right. But it's like, but then who did this? Is it the rebels? Is it someone else operating in their own way? Like
Mayday. We don't know.
Right. It could be Mayday and who knows. So now when we do see the couple encounter this very young but armed guardian who yells out raspberry, Luke is freaking out, right? Because the guy's armed. He's like, oh my God. And June just like stares the dude in the face like a badass, and she's like, beret.
Yeah, like I'm not like I was not surprised by this whole interaction because she's just you can tell that she has been so desensitized to having a gun pointing at her that she's just
this is where I think she kind of goes into the duo personalities. You know, there's June and then there's Offred. Offred is the one that you don't want to fuck with, and June is June deep down inside. So once all the secret code has been given, the Guardian's like, hey, we can't stay here. It's too dangerous. You know, I have to go. Like, I have to go. And they're all like, whoa. You know, we're not leaving without information. He's like, listen, he goes, you don't have to come with me, but I have to go. So they go. They go wherever he's going, which is very risky because they don't know if he could be like a double agent. They don't know where this safer place is. And
if it's really safe, if it's really secure.
Exactly.
They don't know if they can trust them.
Exactly. I mean, he could be young. I mean, he is young. There's no doubt about that. It's like, but they don't know anything about him. And one thing that Lily had said to the couple before they left was like, don't ask for names because names are dangerous. And I think that was purposefully said because later on we will find out more about this Guardian at his secret spot, which happens to be a bowling alley / bar. Decked out in Christmas tree, like Christmas lights and a disco ball. Like, what's up?
I guarantee he put those up himself. Like, I think he probably just found those lights just tucked away somewhere in this place and just decided to go crazy with it. Which,
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't blame him either. It was a cool little setup he had. And he you know, he took the backpacks from them with the goods and he's like, hey, you guys take these are mine. Like he's like, I have a system here. Don't interrupt my system. And they got to learn more about Hannah's school and he introduced us to a new term, the plums. What did you think about the plums?
The plums. It's very appropriate. I mean, okay, I've talked about this many times. I'm a graphic designer. I know colors. Yes, there are actual names to colors. So plum was a very appropriate color to give these young women kind of in transition from wearing the pink when they're, you know, a little girl before getting to blue as a wife. So the plums is a very appropriate name because you even talked about it in one of our earlier episodes that red and blue will make purple. So pink is just a tint of red, and you know, there we are. So plums.
Yeah,
plums.
It is.
But the
it was not surprising.
yeah, but the significance of what kind of school Hannah is going to was incredibly important because all the Guardian knew was that it's a secret location, it's heavily under guard, and that there's wife training curriculum that is accelerated, which is really scary because the fact that Hannah's just 12.
Yeah.
She's 12 years old. How do you expect a 12-year-old to know anything about being a wife and managing a household and performing the duties of a wife?
Yeah.
A 12-year-old.
Yeah. And do we know how old Esther was?
Esther, I think, was probably 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Within
like
that range.
15.
I think she was about 15. We know Eden, Nick's late wife. She was 15.
Yes.
So
it's just they're just making it younger and younger, which is cringier and terrifying. But Luke is disgusted by this.
Sure.
And obviously June is very concerned about this, but I think she takes the information and is like, okay, what are we going to do about it? Like, what other information do you have? She's very much just like already on to the next step while Luke is still processing the horror of what that means, the implications of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the Guardian does say, well, as long as Hannah's in that school, she's safe.
Yeah. She's not married yet.
She's not married yet. She's not performing the duties of a wife. However, there's more information here on this thumb drive that he hands over to them. And very curious, of course, what that intel would reveal and how he acquired it, because he was like, this is it took a lot to get it. So, but hey, we've concluded our business. Let's have some fun. We're in a bowling alley. It's got a disco ball. We've got some alcohol. Like, let's go bowl.
Yeah.
And this is obviously where Fairytales, the title, comes into, because it's
very much
like a little glimmer of just regular life in such a difficult situation. Because the Guardian basically says, like, hey, you guys have to hang out here until it's safe to go back out to get to the border. June and Luke are kind of like, but they have no choice. So in the meantime, we learn that the Guardian's name is Jaden. And he's a sweet kid. He's
adorable.
Really sweet kid.
When I was watching this, my boyfriend was right next to me. And he wasn't watching the show. He was on his phone doing his own thing. But he did hear me say when I was like, I really like this kid. He's gonna die, and I'm so sad about that. Like, you at this point with this show, we are so expectant of the good and the sweet and the innocent being brutally murdered.
You can just predict it. It's so sad.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I really like. I'm like, I know he's gonna die, but I hope it's a quick, easy thing. And luckily, my fears have been spared. So far, for now, but
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But
yeah,
that whole interaction was just so sweet and I guess refreshing. And it must have been refreshing for Luke and June too, because like Luke was bowling. He hasn't bowled in a long time, and it didn't escape my notice though that June hung back and she didn't bowl. Yeah. And
she's on guard.
She's definitely on guard because she hasn't forgotten. I'm still in Gilead currently, right now, physically.
Well,
I'm in Gilead.
But also, bowling makes a lot of noise. And she's like just waiting to hear other Guardians approach and either join in on the fun or bust them. You know what I'm saying? Like, because she doesn't know this guy. She doesn't know, again, double agent or not. But the kid, again, he's just really a sweet, naive, happy child. And I say naive because the fact that all he's ever known is Gilead. But when Luke's like, oh, I love bowling. And he's like, yeah, I think I did too, before with my dad. And so the tone or the atmosphere changes a little bit, and it becomes kind of sad because
we get to see the other side of that.
Yeah, June is realizing that, okay, this kid is of Gilead in a way, but he doesn't necessarily share the same philosophy as the rest. And he says, I think people should be able to see their families. I think people should be able to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah.
And Luke and June are like, yeah, yeah.
That's right.
And it's like, hey, that's what it was before.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that kind of mentality can still exist in people who were raised in Gilead. They're still going to see people who are going to still see in that mindset, but he doesn't know that that's how it used to be. Like
he's just too young to remember.
And it's
but him saying it's foggy like a dream. It's like, oh my God, like that struck my heart.
It hurt because that made him think that means he remembers his dad, his real dad, and we don't know if they probably were separated.
Yeah.
And like we get to see the other side of that because the last time that June saw Hannah didn't recognize her and she screamed and ran and hid. And
that, or she's just so brainwashed in general.
True. But it's definitely something to at least consider, the fact that it's true is so that because of course it was devastating when Hannah reacted that way, but we kind of get to see the other side of it, and it was heavy and it hurt. And but I mean, it was very sweet, and I really like. I think the actor who played Jaden, the boy guardian. I don't Jaden. We're gonna call him by his name.
Jaden.
I think the actor did it really well too. He portrayed
Mhm.
that very well. That innocence, but that
Yes.
fun, and still like, hey, I was raised in Gilead this way, and he's like, but he also didn't say anything negative or bad against Gilead.
No.
Just
No. In
I
other
think
words,
people should see their families. Yeah.
he's just like, people should just exist. They should just do their thing and just exist.
Mhm.
And with that being said, then Luke gets behind the keyboard. By the way, I didn't know that OT plays, and he plays and
Me
sings
either.
very well. But
Mhm.
he then starts playing, oh Susanna, won't you follow? Does that.
Yeah.
But then he gets into the soul of it, right? He plays Al Green's Let's Stay Together. He's
Mhm.
playing, he's singing the words, and Jaden's just kind of like,
Blown
wow.
away.
He's like, did you write that?
And Luke just says he did.
Sure, let's rewrite history. Why not? Let's just go ahead and rewrite history. Yeah,
Why
I wrote
not?
that. I wrote that a while back. So it charted, back in the day. Why not?
And someday, hopefully, if Gilead, burns to the ground, and I really do hope this Jaden kid at least survives to hear that this song is not written by Luke.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
if he heard that original song, he would just be like, the man lied.
He lied to me. Yeah. But during this little sequence of Luke singing, he gets June to dance with him, and then Jaden goes and gets a flashlight, and he flashes it at the disco ball, and it's just like a really sweet romantic fairy tale like moment, to bring some sort of normalcy and some happy times into this fucked up world that they currently live in. And you kind of want them to just live in that moment forever.
Yeah.
But
And
no.
you can't ignore the fact that the Christmas lights and everything make that entire like bowling alley bar area so warm and cozy and
Magical.
sweet and magical. And then but on the outside it's cold. It is
dark.
It is white. It is
full of mines.
And full of mines. And my poor boy Jaden, I like, oh my gosh, my boy, my child.
Walk us through that. Figuratively.
Why did you say walk?
I didn't mean to. Pun not intended.
So what Jaden starts to now it is nighttime. And it is safe for them to leave the safety of the bowling alley, a sentence I never thought I would say.
Yeah.
And they're going through the woods and trying to get back to the border, to get back to no man's land, so that to get Luke and June back. And Jaden tells him to stop, and he stepped on a mine. And I think he took this with like a maturity that someone his age shouldn't, like.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Like he handled it very. I mean, he did, like, it did end up still blowing up.
He was like comforting Luke and June.
Yeah, that maturity.
Like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like just keep going. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Such grace.
It blew me away. And I think that just made it so much more devastating.
You talk about my choice of words.
Oh.
No. Wow. That was just terrible, Amber. What? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Yeah, yours is nothing compared to that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, everybody who imprinted on Jaden like I did.
Oh, Lord. So unfortunately, yes, because he must have lifted his foot just ever so slightly. Yes, the mine goes off.
Did detonate, yeah.
It detonates. You see him flying through the air, and the poor kid had part of his leg blasted off.
And I am glad that he is not dead, because as I said a second ago, I very much imprinted on him, and I love this child already.
I feel like this show is like Game of Thrones. Don't have a favorite character because that
I
character
know.
may
I'm not
die.
saying he's a favorite. I'm just saying I imprinted on him. I'm like, this is my
Almost
child.
saying.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yeah. Okay.
So your child, but not your favorite child. Got it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's messed up.
I have adopted him as my own.
Oh my god.
No, he was just so sweet, and he did lose part of his leg. It only zeroed in on like one leg, so we don't. I'm going to assume
I
it
think
was
it's
the
just
leg that
one.
the one he was
Yeah.
standing on.
Yeah.
And he's probably definitely banged up from that fall because he flew up and landed pretty hard. So he's definitely probably bruised up too. But I don't believe anything else would have been broken, but we can't say. But he did
Luke
lose
is
his foot.
freaking out.
Yeah,
Luke was
like you can tell Luke
freaking
is
out.
not experienced in this, and I guess the
And that's
alter
because the
ego.
man's been shot.
Yeah,
He's been shot. June's been shot. Like, you know, June's like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. And Luke's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You know, he can't handle that kind of pressure.
Yeah,
But you hear the Guardians closing in from all directions.
And June tries her best to get them out of there, and it looks like they almost are. They are all
hauling.
so close,
Hauling
close past no man's land, but
alas.
Yeah, you bring us through that, please. It was
that was a rough watch. I mean, you kind of could predict, okay, they're gonna go into Gilead, but that doesn't mean they're gonna get out, especially June, like a second time, right?
Yeah.
There's just no way in hell. And the irony of all this, of course, she went into the woods with Hannah years ago, got separated from her after she was separated from Luke, right? She goes into the woods this time with Luke and is now separated from him again to cue in Al Green's Let's Stay Together song with the end credits. My God, like you're talking about bringing it home and like striking you in the gut. That was it. That was a hell of a cliffhanger.
It hurt. And it also just brings so much anxiety and concern. You're concerned for these characters because like at this point we don't like June is still dealing with the trauma and obviously still like experiencing, I guess, outbursts as with her alter ego Offred, but like, oh, now she's right back in it. And what's going to happen to that? And what's going to happen to Luke? Like, it's
what's going to happen when Serena finds out that they're back in Gilead?
Exactly. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's so many possibilities here. Like
Mackenzie, Putnam, Nick. How are they all going to react? What are they all going to do?
Yeah. And it's like and even
Nicole,
and Moira.
Yes.
Wow. I have
also Lily. You're the resistance leader. Where the fuck were you? Why weren't you there?
Yeah. And also what bothers me, it doesn't not I didn't mean it bothers me, but like what's been bothering me and like kind of a thought in my mind, because I know we don't know. She has the actress who plays Emily hasn't said that she's coming back. Right. She's not coming back. We don't but we haven't even heard of Emily since she went back to Gilead. So
we heard of Esther in an episode.
Yeah, that's true.
So
or Nick. Or Nick. Yeah, we didn't hear about him in the previous one either.
No. Nope.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have a lot of characters to follow up on. And
yes, we do.
I am very intrigued on if they would even mention, because there are ways to have characters, I guess, brought up in conversation without them physically being there. That's definitely a thing. They could do that with Emily, but because she did go back to Gilead. But we don't. There's just so many ways that this can go. Are they going to make her a handmaid again? Are they going to...
Oh, they're going to put her on trial.
Yeah, they're going to put her on trial.
They're going to try to send her to the wall. Luke, they're probably going to...
The colonies?
Or the colonies, or...
No, I think they would take her to the wall. They wouldn't risk an uprising in the colonies.
Luke, they'll probably try to hang him as well, for whatever BS reasons they come up with. Who knows? Yeah, it's going to be an interesting follow up. This is the halfway point of the season.
Yeah.
Very good cliffhanger for sure. I think the storytelling is still very well done, dialogue wise as well as visual.
Yes.
So, which is sad to say in a way, because next week, Amber, you and I will not be coming back for episode 6 review, because you're going on vacation, rightfully deserved. Very exciting. Yes, very exciting. So that means we will be back in 2 weeks, but we will be reviewing not only one episode, 2 episodes. So episode 6 and 7 we will be reviewing in a couple weeks. So, but yeah, this concludes pretty much our review for episode 5, entitled Fairytales. So yeah, wow.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. It's now, having spoken to you about it in depth, it really is a lot. And the show is still an excellent show. I'm just glad that we've eliminated a lot of these long stares from June. Thank God.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Praise be.
Praise be.
There it is. That's how I can
there
plug it
is. Right near the end. Praise be. We are all over the long death stares.
We are. But you know what we're not over? We're not over having people subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we are on the road to 200 subscribers. Help us get there. I think I last checked, we're at 118. So we are slowly getting up there. Yay! So don't forget to like this video as well. It helps out our channel, helps other people tune into the Watchers in the Basement. Algorithm, you get it. Algorithm sucks at times. But we also want you to check out Amber's YouTube channel on all things wands and wand lore from the wizarding world. So head over to OllivAmber's Wands here on YouTube. And also don't forget to subscribe to her Instagram account at OllivAmbers.wands. All of her links are in the description box down below. And you can also follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Watchers Basement. Help spread the word about us using hashtag Watchers Basement. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube. Also like this video, turn on those notification bells. And last but not least, for your audio podcast needs, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to anchor.fm. Give us a 5-star rating. Really would help us out. So, Amber, thank you once again for joining me this week. I hope you have a blast on vacation. I'm like low-key jealous.
Thank you so much. I'm work has been insane, so I'm very, very, this is much needed. Yes. I am excited. I get to see my family for the first time in months.
Yay!
It's exciting. I really need this. I mean, I'm still probably going to watch the episode, but we got a lot to talk about when we come back. And thank you again for, as always, inviting me. I love talking about this show with you.
Likewise.
It's fascinating, and it's so much to talk about. And again, it's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise. And once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today in the chat, Geeking Out with Melly Mel and Trisha, aka the Texas Potterhead. We appreciate you both being here with us in the live chat. And we will be back for episode 6 and 7 in 2 weeks' time. So buy her fucking hand.
Buy her fucking hand.